behind you.
You think I'll let you zone?
Baka.
Hey guys, you know the deal with lost media by now. People, or most likely everyone in the digital age, thinks that just because the internet is here to stay that anything can be found on it, but that's further from the truth. Movies, books, scripts, among many other things can be lost to time unless someone decides to copy media for archival purposes. In this edition, I want to go over the cut content over one of Capcom's most celebrated fighting game series, the Versus series, but in particular, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 cut characters from the overall roster and DLC. After the release of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Fate of Two Worlds, the game's development team had planned to release more downloadable content in the form of DLC characters. However, after the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, in addition to staff health issues, delayed the development schedule, producer Ryota Natsuma and his team decided to release the proposed DLC along with rebalanced gameplay and other patches as a separate installment, i.e. Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But I'm going to go over some characters that got cut in various stages of development. First, let's start on the cut characters for the Capcom side of things, shall we? Gill. He was very late in development. He had a character model and some working moves. Natsuma said that Gill was so large and fast that it was weird for him to be rendered at that speed Marvel 3 was running at. He also really didn't want too many Street Fighter rep characters in the roster. He was ultimately cut and replaced by Nemesis for the place of giant Capcom dude. Being much slower, his rendering was more appropriate for his size when fighting. Another one would be Demitri Maximoff, was another fighter considered, but his Midnight Bliss took some issues with people at Capcom because it would take too much development time and the team feared it would be controversial, possibly increasing the ESRB rating and drawing flack from the press because of it. For those who don't know, when performing Midnight Bliss, Demitri likes to transform his victims into young, attractive women. Marvel would likely not want any of their characters mocked in this way. He also literally sucks blood out from their mouth. He also takes a lot of time and effort to create a cheeky female model for each individual character, so that's why they decided to axe him. The exclusion of many Breath of Fire characters stemmed from the fact Capcom's Western audience would likely not recognize them at all. Nina was considered. She even had her character model based off the first game and level 3 made. She summons all other Ninas like Mega Man's Final Smash and Smash Brothers, but she was scrapped in favor of Firebrand. Oddly enough, both Nina and Firebrand could have been in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but one was chosen over the other due to popularity. Another was SonSon. A female staff user suggested her and was desired, but lost in terms of priority. It was feared casuals wouldn't want her on the roster even though she was in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but players were not talking about how much they love SonSon, right? Now for the Marvel side. Multiple Man was considered for a roster spot, but unfortunately the game could not handle him multiplying himself, which would have been a must if he were in the game because his kit was going to be built around him, multiplying. Squirrel Girl was also in the running for a roster spot, but in a meeting there were more Rocket Raccoon people in the room than Squirrel Girl people, so they chose Rocket Raccoon and canned Squirrel Girl. Mystique was also considered for a spot. Though well known, her most recognizable gimmick is to change appearances, and it wasn't deemed good enough to be a unique gimmick for a fighter, so she was also canned. One of the most surprising is Miles Morales taking the spot of Spider-Man, as Marvel wanted him in the game at the time, and Capcom would have liked him, though there was not enough time to begin development on his character since he debuted in comics of August of 2011, the same year both Marvel 3 and Ultimate Marvel 3 released in that time frame. Hindsight, it would be a blessing as Miles didn't really have much but Camo and the Venom Strike in his first few issues, but now Capcom has a ton of references to make Ultimate Spider-Man a more unique with Ultimate Alliance 3 and Spider-Man Miles Morales to create a kit that would be more original than a palette swap of Peter Parker if they choose Miles for the next game in the series. That should do it for this special volume of Lost Media on Marvel vs. Capcom 3. There are a lot more cut fighters I didn't get to, but I didn't want to be here all day. Maybe I'll do that in part 2 sometime in the future. In the comments below, tell me what I should look into next. Stay safe guys, and I'll see you in the next video.
Hey, glad you could make it, but if you could be so kind as to leave a comment and maybe subscribe so we can keep the lights on. Thanks.